There is a dangerous lie whispered to men after 40. It says your best years are behind you. It says the window has closed. It says you should now be grateful for survival instead of demanding greatness. That lie has buried more fortunes than poverty ever did. I speak to the man who has worked, endured, sacrificed, and now feels time pressing harder than ambition. You are not weak. You are not late. But you are standing at a fork where indecision becomes permanent if you do not act with law. Youth believes in speed. Age understands power. And wealth does not answer speed. It answers order. It answers the man who finally knows what he wants, why he wants it, and refuses to negotiate with himself any longer. Most fortunes are not built early. They are built when a man is seasoned, focused, and no longer distracted by proving himself. When he stops chasing approval and starts commanding results. When desire matures into decision. You have something now that you did not have at 25. Experience paid for with pain. You have seen what does not work. You have lived through mistakes that taught you precision. And if you harness that wisdom instead of resenting it, wealth begins to move faster, not slower. The tragedy is this. Many men over 40 lower their aim just as they become capable of hitting something great. They trade vision for comfort. They call caution wisdom. And slowly, quietly, they abandon the fortune that was waiting for a decisive mind. Listen carefully. Money does not respond to youth, strength, or luck. It responds to definiteness. It responds to a clear plan held with faith and reinforced by daily action. And that formula favors the man who can persist without panic. You may believe you are starting behind. That belief alone is what keeps you there. Wealth is not a race. It is a system. And systems can be entered at any age, provided the mind is disciplined enough to obey principle instead of emotion. I have studied thousands of men who failed and a small number who succeeded beyond measure. The difference was never intelligence. It was never education. It was the presence or absence of a definite chief aim reinforced by habit. At 40, you no longer need to experiment. You need to execute. You need principles that remove guesswork, eliminate drift, and convert effort into accumulation. Not excitement, structure, not hustle, order. There are laws that govern riches just as surely as laws govern the harvest. Ignore them and labor is wasted. Obey them and results compound quietly, steadily, almost invisibly, until one day others call it overnight success. Here is what few men are told. The second half of life is where fortunes are consolidated, where decisions carry weight, where networks deepen, where patience becomes a weapon instead of a burden. But only if the man refuses to drift. Only if he stops dabbling and chooses one course with finality. Only if he commands his mind daily instead of allowing memory, fear, and regret to do the commanding. You are not here to gamble. You are here to build. And building requires principles that do not change with mood, markets, or opinion. Principles that work in silence. Principles that reward consistency more than brilliance. You may feel the urgency now. That is not fear. It is clarity arriving late but still on time. Time has not run out. It has simply stopped waiting for hesitation. What I will unfold are not tricks, shortcuts, or speculation. They are laws proven by men who began with less time than you have now and ended with more freedom than they imagined possible. But understand this before we proceed. These principles do not tolerate half-belief. They do not reward casual listening. They demand obedience. And they give in return what no wage ever can, control. If you will listen as a man listens when he knows this decade must count, you will see that 1 million is not an impossible figure. It is a destination reached by structure, not chance. Stay with me. The path is not loud, it is exact, and it favors the man who decides, once and for all, that the rest of his life will be governed by law, not luck. Principle 1, the law of mature desire. Desire in youth is wild and unfocused. It jumps from aim to aim without loyalty. But desire in a man over 40 is tempered by failure, seasoned by disappointment, strengthened by endurance. It is no longer a youthful fire, it is mature heat. And mature heat, when directed, becomes power. Many men do not understand this. They imagine their strongest years lie behind them. They are wrong. A man's desire does not reach full strength until life has shaped him through hardship. I have studied thousands of men who rose from nothing to wealth, and I tell you a remarkable truth. Most of them built their fortunes after the age of 40. Not before, not during the years of ambition without discipline, but after. Why? Because desire, to be effective, must be guided by experience, not excitement. At 40, a man no longer dreams vaguely. He knows what he wants because he has lived long enough to know what he does not want. The danger, however, is that many men mistake weariness for wisdom. They grow cautious when life is actually inviting them to rise. They reduce their aims at the very moment they have the strength to pursue greater ones. They believe they are late, but a man is not late when he is prepared. And preparation is the one advantage older men possess in greater measure than all others. Experience, if organized, becomes capital. Do not say, "It is too late." Say instead, "Now I am ready." For your past, every lesson, every failure, every long night of doubt has refined your desire to its purest form. A young man chases approval. A seasoned man chases purpose. And purpose produces wealth because it does not change with mood. The world will not tell you this. The world tells men over 40 to settle, to accept small ambitions, to shrink toward comfort. But the world is wrong. A man's finest work is rarely done before he understands himself. And a man does not understand himself until life has tested him. You have been tested, therefore you are ready. Principle 2, the unchanging target. The average man carries within him a dozen small ambitions, each competing for control. One day he wishes to start a business. Another day he wishes to invest. Another day he wishes to write. Another day he wishes to rest. His mind becomes a marketplace of half decisions, none strong enough to dominate his conduct. This confusion wastes more opportunity than failure ever could. But when a man over 40 selects one aim, one purpose, one target that deserves his full life, something remarkable begins. His scattered energy straightens, his old habits weaken, his thoughts march in one direction. He feels a new strength rising, not because he has gained power, but because he has stopped losing it. The men who built fortunes did not possess more talent than you. They possessed more certainty. Carnegie did not drift between aims. He said, "I shall master steel," and every decision thereafter supported that aim. The aim governed the man. The man governed the world. That is the secret of definiteness. You must now do the same. Choose the aim capable of producing $1 million. Do not choose a modest aim. Modesty is the disguise of fear. Choose an aim that commands your respect, demands your strength, and awakens your spirit. An aim too small will never summon the power within you. Only a great aim can summon a great man. But choosing the aim is only the first act. The second act is binding yourself to it. A definite aim must be unchanging. You cannot revise it each week based on emotion or external noise. When a man bargains with his aim, he loses authority over himself. The subconscious will not build for a wavering master. Your aim must be written, spoken, and repeated until it becomes the central law of your mind. It must feel less like a wish and more like a command. Do not ask, "Can I achieve it?" Ask instead, "Will I obey the aim I have set?" The answer to that question determines your fortune. A man over 40 does not fail because his aim is too large. He fails because he splits his life among too many small aims. You must be done with smallness. You must become a man of direction, not dispersion. Principle 3, the man you must become to earn $1 million. Most men attempt the reverse. They chase wealth with the identity of a wandering laborer. They hope their circumstances will change while they remain the same. This violates every law of achievement. No structure can rise higher than its foundation. Identity is the foundation. If it is cracked, the structure collapses regardless of the plan. The tragedy is that identity is often built unconsciously. A man becomes a certain type of person not by decision, but by habit, not by intention, but by drift. Over years, he becomes hesitant because he has delayed too often, becomes doubtful because he has surrendered too easily, becomes small because he has aimed too low. These repeated choices form a silent sculpture of the self, and once formed, it governs conduct with more authority than desire. You must therefore rebuild your identity with the same seriousness you would rebuild a broken enterprise. Identity is not a costume. It is not a speech. It is not a burst of enthusiasm. Identity is formed by the repeated action that declares, "This is who I am," until the subconscious accepts it as fact. Edison was an inventor long before he invented anything. His identity preceded the results. Carnegie was an industrialist long before he controlled even a single mill. Ford was a builder long before the world respected his machines. These men acted from the identity they chose, not from the circumstances they had. And because identity governs conduct and conduct governs results, they rose above their conditions until the world was forced to agree with their self-definition. To build wealth after 40, you must construct a new identity consciously. Begin by removing the three identities that have kept you small: the timid self, the hesitant self, and the delayed self. These identities ruin more fortunes than poverty. The timid self avoids risk even when the reward is certain. The hesitant self waits for permission that never comes. The delayed self postpones action until the opportunity has passed. These must be banished from your inner world with finality. Next, decide upon the traits required by the identity of a millionaire builder: decisiveness, clarity, consistency, courage, and a sense of command. Repeat to yourself daily, "I am the man who decides. I am the man who moves. I am the man who completes." Each repetition weakens the old identity and strengthens the new. Identity construction is not an act, it is a discipline. You must speak, behave, and choose in alignment with the identity you are creating. If you wish to be a decisive man, you must decide quickly and firmly. If you wish to be a consistent man, you must honor your schedule without debate. If you wish to be a courageous man, you must take the action that fear tries to prevent. Identity forms through loyalty to action, not through thought alone. You will know your identity has begun to change when your conduct changes without effort. You will speak with more certainty. Your voice will carry weight. Your thoughts will resist distractions. Your decisions will arrive faster. Others will begin responding to you differently, not because you told them to, but because identity reveals itself in tone, posture, and bearing. A man over 40 has an advantage in this work. His identity is not built on imagination alone. It is built on decades of lessons, mistakes, responsibilities, and observation. He has lived enough life to recognize the traits that destroy men and the traits that raise them. All he needs now is reconstruction. Intentional, mature, disciplined reconstruction. Principle 4, turning experience into capital. Specialized knowledge is not the accumulation of facts. It is the ability to interpret facts through the lens of lived experience. It is wisdom sharpened into usefulness. It is insight extracted from decades of observation. Younger men must guess, older men know. And because they know, their knowledge becomes capital. Capital that can be sold, taught, applied, or transformed into enterprise. Look upon your own life. You have endured setbacks that a younger man has not yet faced. You have solved problems that once seemed impossible. You have seen the consequences of poor decisions and the rewards of wise ones. You have worked in fields, industries, or crafts long enough to understand where value is created and where it is lost. This knowledge, if organized, becomes your advantage. But here lies the tragedy. Most men over 40 fail not because they lack knowledge, but because they fail to recognize its worth. They look upon their years and see routine. They look upon their experience and see nothing special. They dismiss what life has taught them because it did not arrive with applause. They do not understand that the very struggles they regret are the foundation of their future wealth. The mind of a mature man can see the entire board. He notices the consequences of actions before they occur. He recognizes value where others see nothing. He anticipates change instead of reacting to it. This foresight is a form of wealth even before it produces money. Principle 5. Alliance power for men over 40. There is no wealth without alliance. This truth remains unchanged across every age, every industry, every generation I have studied. The single mind, no matter how brilliant, is limited. But the coordinated harmony of several minds, united under a definite purpose, becomes a force no obstacle can permanently withstand. This is the mastermind principle, reborn now for the man over 40. Younger men struggle to form alliances because their identities are untested and their aims uncertain. They seek companionship, not cooperation. They value approval more than alignment. But when a man reaches 40, he possesses something younger men do not: gravity. His presence carries weight born of experience. His failures have humbled him. His victories have steadied him. His tone has matured. And because of this, he can form alliances of far greater power. Yet many older men isolate themselves precisely when they are most qualified to lead. Their pride prevents them from seeking counsel. Their disappointments cause them to withdraw. Their distrust of past associations blinds them to future opportunity. Isolation is the quiet destroyer of fortunes. It shrinks a man's world until he becomes prisoner of his own limitations. Your alliances should include 3 archetypes: the strategist who sees patterns and opportunities where others see confusion, the executor who acts with speed and reliability, the stabilizer whose calmness holds the group steady in uncertainty. When these minds synchronize under one purpose, your power multiplies beyond your individual capability. But alliances require humility. You must be willing to listen. You must be willing to revise your own ideas. You must be willing to acknowledge that another man's strength can complete your weakness. Wealth requires cooperation, not pride. Cooperation demands maturity. Maturity is the advantage of the man over 40. If you doubt this principle, observe your own life. Consider how many opportunities slipped away because you attempted to carry the full weight alone. Consider how many ideas remained unbuilt because you lacked support. Consider how many times you needed only one additional mind to break through, yet worked in isolation out of habit rather than wisdom. No great plan succeeds without assistance. A $1 million enterprise cannot rest on a single shoulder. You must distribute the weight. You must unify intelligence. You must merge abilities. That is the mastermind reborn. Principle 6, the law of the remaining hours. The tragedy is that many men over 40 fall into a quiet form of surrender. They look upon the years behind them and imagine the years ahead must follow the same pattern. They allow routine to imprison them. They drift not because they are incapable, but because they believe time has slipped beyond recovery. They do not realize that a man over 40 can compress 2 decades of progress into 5 years when he organizes his time with the seriousness the second half demands. Understand this: time responds to discipline. Time bends before order. Time becomes generous when a man treats it with reverence. The men who achieved wealth late in life did not gain new strength. They gained new respect for the hours they had left. They understood that a single disciplined year is worth 10 undirected ones. They cut away the trivial. They dismissed distractions. They established rhythms that made drift impossible. Ford exemplified this law. His ability to organize time exceeded his ability to organize machines. He placed each hour under command, assigning it a purpose and refusing to let emotion interfere. His schedule became a silent ally, a structure that amplified every action. This discipline did not restrict him. It liberated him. It gave his plan breath. You must now do the same. Begin by examining where your hours escape. A man over 40 cannot afford to squander time on obligations that do not serve his aim. Every hour must have a function. Some hours build knowledge, some hours build income, some hours build alliances, some hours build rest, so that the other hours may carry more weight. But no hour must be allowed to vanish into nothingness. Create what I call the rhythm of the remaining hours. Choose certain times each day that will never be surrendered. Times for planning, for execution, for study, for reflection. Let these hours become sacred. When the world presses against them, resist. When your mood attempts to intrude, refuse. Rhythm is more powerful than motivation. Rhythm carries a man when enthusiasm fades. A man over 40 must also learn the art of compression, accomplishing in 1 hour what once required 3. This is achieved not by speed, but by concentration. Eliminate divided attention. Work with a single aim before you. When you engage with your task, give it your full presence. Concentration shortens effort. Distraction lengthens it. 1 concentrated hour each day can build a $1 million enterprise. 10 distracted hours cannot. Principle 7, organize planning for the second half of life. A man over 40 must build a plan with greater seriousness than a young man, for he has more to lose and more to gain. His life has already revealed what does not work. He no longer needs experimentation, he needs execution. His plan must reflect this maturity. It must be simple but firm, flexible but disciplined, ambitious but exact. A vague plan cannot hold the weight of a man's future. A precise plan can. Begin by taking your definite aim and translating it into 3 structures: your income structure, your alliance structure, and your daily work structure. These 3 form the foundation of your wealth machinery. Without them, your aim remains a dream. With them, your aim becomes a destination toward which every day moves you. Your income structure answers the question, what will produce the $1 million? Not what might, not what could, but what shall. You must choose a specific method, business, investment, service, product, consulting, through which the wealth will flow. Do not select many. Select one. A man over 40 cannot afford divided effort. Choose the channel that aligns with your experience and your specialized knowledge. Your alliance structure answers, who must help me build this? Your working circle must be chosen with meticulous care. Each person must strengthen the plan, never weaken it. Even one misaligned mind can crack the foundation. Select those whose wisdom deepens your perspective, whose skill completes your weakness, whose encouragement sustains you, and whose presence sharpens your discipline. Your daily work structure answers, what shall I do every day without exception? This is the engine of the machine. It is the rhythm that transforms planning into progress. Identify 3 daily actions that directly advance the plan. These actions must be non-negotiable. A man over 40 succeeds not by bursts of effort, but by consistency. Consistency becomes power when embedded into daily work. Ford built his automotive empire because his plan functioned like machinery. Every part was connected. Every action served the aim. When resistance appeared, he did not abandon the plan. He strengthened the machinery. If a method failed, he revised it. If a man quit, he replaced him. If an idea proved flawed, he adjusted it. This is the essence of organized planning. Revision without surrender. You must view your plan as a living structure. It breathes through updates. It grows through correction. It survives through loyalty. A rigid plan breaks. A living plan adapts. Many older men fail because they cling to outdated methods out of pride or habit. Do not cling. Adjust. Your aim remains fixed. The route may change. Principle 8. The law of constructive destruction. Most failures in later life do not come from lack of ability. They come from the unwillingness to give up the familiar. The familiar is comfortable. The familiar is predictable. But the familiar is often the very thing that prevents the next stage of greatness. A man cannot climb while clutching the rung beneath him. He must let go, fully, decisively, without apology. Consider Lincoln. Before he became the leader the world now honors, he endured a long season in which he destroyed version after version of himself, his timidity, his self-doubt, his longing for approval, his tendency to retreat. None of these traits could rise with him into destiny. Lincoln became great only because he eliminated the identities that contradicted greatness. You too must examine your life with unflinching honesty. What habits maintain your former self? What associations keep you small? What duties steal your strength without advancing your aim? What environments weaken your resolve? You must look upon these with the seriousness of a man examining a failing structure and be willing to remove every weak beam. The danger for the man over 40 is not failure, it is attachment. He clings to routines that feel safe. He tolerates relationships that drain him because he has known them for years. He continues in work that suffocates him because it has become part of his identity. He believes that removing the old will leave him with nothing. But this is false. Removing the old makes room for the new. Nature does not leave a void unfilled. When you abandon the life that no longer serves you, the life that does serve you will rise to meet you. Do not fear loss. Loss is the soil of gain. Every man who rose to wealth shed parts of his old life like a serpent sheds skin. He did not negotiate with those parts. He did not attempt to carry them upward. He outgrew them. You must do the same. This principle applies not only to outer conditions, but to inner conditions. You must release the beliefs that kept you poor. I am too old. It is too late. I missed my chance. These are lies spoken by the remnants of a former identity. Burn them. Remove them. Replace them with convictions worthy of the man you are becoming. Principle 9. The will that cannot bend. Persistence is the power that transforms a plan into a result. It is the unseen current running beneath every fortune. But persistence in a man over 40 possesses a force unlike persistence in youth. The younger man persists from enthusiasm. The older man persists from conviction. One burns quickly and fades. The other deepens with pressure. It is this mature persistence that becomes unbreakable. A man over 40 has endured enough disappointment to know that progress is rarely immediate. He has lived long enough to understand that delays are not denials, that setbacks are not defeats, and that failure is often a disguised instruction. Because of this, he possesses the capacity to persist long after a younger man has grown weary. His will has been seasoned by reality. Yet many older men forget this advantage. They imagine that persistence is the work of youth, that they have outlived their prime, that obstacles now appear heavier than before. This is an illusion. Age does not weaken persistence. It purifies it. A younger man resists difficulty because he fears discomfort. A mature man embraces difficulty because he has learned that difficulty is the price of all worthwhile attainment. To build $1 million fortune, you must cultivate this same unshakable will. Your plan will not unfold smoothly. There will be days when progress appears invisible, when alliances falter, when discouragement whispers in the dark corners of your mind. These moments do not signal the end of your plan. They test the strength of your identity. If you retreat, you confirm weakness. If you persist, you confirm destiny. Persistence must become a habit, not a mood. You cannot persist only when conditions feel favorable. You must persist especially when they do not. A man's will is strengthened by resistance the way steel is strengthened by fire. Do not flee from pressure. Let it forge you into the vessel capable of carrying wealth. Many older men fail because they surrender too soon. They misinterpret temporary struggle as permanent impossibility. They believe that because the path is difficult, the aim must not be theirs. But difficulty is the proof that the aim is worthy. A small aim produces small struggle. A great aim produces great resistance. Only a great man persists through great resistance. Principle 10, steadiness as a financial weapon. There are 4 emotions that most commonly sabotage men over 40: irritation, fear, regret, and impatience. Irritation weakens judgment. Fear paralyzes decision. Regret anchors a man to the past. Impatience causes him to abandon the plan just before it yields. Each of these emotions must be recognized not as truth, but as forces requiring discipline. Irritation arises when reality contradicts expectation. Its cure is acceptance. A man who accepts facts can adapt. A man who resents facts weakens himself. Fear arises from imagination directed toward loss. Its cure is decision. Decision dissolves fear by giving the mind a command. Regret is loyalty to what cannot be changed. Its cure is direction, turning the mind toward what can be built. Impatience is the demand for results without the price. Its cure is faith in process. Emotional control does not mean you suppress your feelings. It means your feelings do not interfere with your plan. A man must be able to feel deeply without acting impulsively. He must be able to experience disappointment without surrender. He must be able to experience excitement without losing discipline. This steadiness becomes a financial weapon because it allows him to continue working when others lose courage. You will not always feel like building your plan, but your feelings are not your master. If you obey emotion, you abandon direction. If you obey direction, emotion becomes your servant. Emotional control is the act of choosing which voice governs your conduct. When others see your steadiness, they gain confidence in you. Business partners trust you. Clients respect you. Investors rely on you. Opportunities gravitate toward the man who does not tremble under strain. Emotional steadiness is an unspoken form of leadership. Principle 11, imagination matured into foresight. Carnegie's entire fortune was built upon this principle. He saw value where others saw burden. When competitors saw risk in expanding steel production, he saw inevitability. When others viewed public infrastructure as too uncertain, he saw the rising cities and the decades of demand ahead. His imagination was not idle fancy. It was the trained perception of a man who had watched the world long enough to understand its patterns. You too have patterns within your memory, patterns younger men cannot yet see. You have seen industries expand and collapse. You have watched human nature repeat itself. You have observed how people respond to change, innovation, scarcity, and abundance. These observations are not trivial. They are gold concealed in the mind of a mature man. When organized, they become foresight. The ability to see value where others see burden means recognizing the hidden advantage inside inconvenience. A difficult customer reveals an unmet need. A failing system reveals a profitable correction. A rising cost reveals a market shift. A personal struggle reveals a future service you can offer. The world hides opportunity inside problems so that only the thinking man can uncover them. You must train your mind to ask a new question whenever difficulty appears. Where is the value concealed within this burden? Ask it with calmness. Ask it without frustration. Ask it until your subconscious begins answering automatically. You will notice a change in your thinking. What once irritated you will begin to interest you. What once discouraged you will begin to instruct you. This shift marks the beginning of mature foresight. The man over 40 is uniquely equipped for this work. He does not react impulsively. He does not rush to judgment. He can sit with a difficulty long enough to understand it. This patience makes him capable of discovering the opportunity that impatient men miss. Opportunity rarely appears in polished form. It arrives disguised as labor, as inconvenience, as responsibility. Only the man who can see through the disguise becomes its beneficiary. Foresight also requires confidence in one's interpretation. When your imagination reveals value, you must trust it. Most men see opportunity, but do not believe in their ability to seize it. Their self-doubt blinds them. But when you cultivate identity, discipline, and planning, you gain confidence in your own mind. The moment you trust your perception, opportunity becomes your property. Principle 12, the mature man's fuel. The average man looks upon his past with regret or indifference. He sees mistakes as wounds rather than instructions. He sees failures as reasons to doubt himself rather than reasons to trust the path that strengthened him. He sees years spent struggling as time lost, not understanding that struggle refines perception, sharpens decision, and teaches truths no book can reveal. Every painful moment was tuition for wisdom, but wisdom becomes capital only when a man organizes it. Experience is raw material. To transmute it into wealth, you must refine it. Begin by identifying the recurring themes of your life, the skills you return to naturally, the problems you solve with ease, the errors you no longer repeat, the strengths that emerged only through trial. These patterns form the blueprint of your economic value. A man over 40 has endured enough to see the world clearly. He can recognize inefficiencies in systems, misunderstandings in communication, gaps in service, flaws in leadership. These insights, when directed toward a definite aim, become opportunities. Younger men guess where opportunity lies. Older men remember where opportunity lies, for they have seen it appear again and again. Consider the story of a man who spent decades in a role he believed was ordinary. He observed the frustrations of customers, the failures of management, and the inefficiencies of workflow. For years, these observations seemed trivial, but when he finally decided to build a business, he realized that every hardship had taught him exactly how to solve a problem others had ignored. His experience became the blueprint of his enterprise. What he once saw as burden became a foundation for wealth. Your own experience contains similar treasures. Your mistakes taught you what to avoid. Your victories taught you what to repeat. Your disappointments taught you where systems fail. Your successes taught you where systems thrive. Every emotional struggle taught you the nature of human behavior. Every financial struggle taught you the nature of value. Nothing that has happened to you is wasted unless you refuse to use it. To transmute experience into wealth, you must do three things: reflect, extract, apply. Reflect on your past, not to relive it, but to harvest it. Extract from each major event the principle it taught you. Apply these principles deliberately to your plan. This process turns invisible strength into visible progress. The man over 40 must understand this truth. You are closer to $1 million today than you were at 30. Not further. At 30, you possessed energy, but not clarity. At 30, you possessed ambition, but not direction. At 30, you possessed desire, but not identity. But now you have something infinitely more valuable, a mind trained by life. A man's past becomes his investor when he uses it wisely. Every lesson becomes capital. Every scar becomes instruction. Every failure becomes foresight. Wealth favors the man who has lived enough to know the rules of life and disciplined enough to apply them. Principle 13, courage as a daily habit. Fear defeats more men after 40 than failure ever will. Failure wounds a man once. Fear wounds him every day. It whispers to him in moments of opportunity. It magnifies the cost of action. It invents dangers that do not exist. And because the mature man has lived long enough to collect memories of disappointment, his fears often feel reasonable, even protective. Yet fear, no matter how logical it appears, remains an enemy of progress. There are two fears that tighten their grip most fiercely in midlife: the fear of criticism and the fear of poverty. These fears grow stronger, not weaker, as a man ages. A younger man risks freely because he has little to lose. A man over 40 hesitates because he has responsibilities, possessions, a family, a reputation, and a life he has built with effort. But this is precisely why fear becomes so dangerous. It disguises itself as caution. It convinces a man that hesitation is wisdom when it is actually surrender. Fear of criticism arises because the older man imagines the eyes of the world upon him. He worries what others will say if he fails. He imagines judgment where none exists. He forgets that most men are too occupied with their own concerns to evaluate his actions. No critic has ever built a monument. No spectator has ever shaped an empire. The man who fears opinions becomes slave to men who do not think. Fear of poverty, on the other hand, is the oldest of all fears. It does not merely frighten the mature man, it humiliates him. He remembers the moments in life when money was scarce, when bills brought anxiety, when obligations overwhelmed capacity. He fears returning to that place. Ironically, this fear prevents him from taking the very actions that would secure his freedom. Fear of poverty produces poverty because it makes a man think small, act small, and choose small. But fear has one weakness: it cannot survive decision. Decision is the blade that cuts through uncertainty. Decision does not negotiate with fear. It removes its authority. The moment a man decides with finality, fear loses its power. A man cannot think fearfully and decisively at the same time. One state destroys the other. If decision rules the mind, fear must depart. This is why successful men appear fearless. It is not that fear does not visit them. It is that decision drives it away. Edison faced criticism that would have crushed a lesser man, yet he decided to continue. Ford faced financial ruin more than once, yet he decided that retreat was impossible. Lincoln faced national collapse, yet he decided that unity would stand. Their decisions shaped history because their decisions shaped themselves. To build $1 million after 40, you must practice courage not as an emotion, but as a habit. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is disciplined action in spite of fear. Each time you act through fear, your will grows stronger. Each time you retreat because of fear, your will grows weaker. This is a law. Courage must be exercised daily, not occasionally. It must govern the small decisions, so it may govern the large ones. Whenever fear rises, give yourself this command: decide now. Not tomorrow. Not when conditions improve. Not when you feel ready. Fear thrives in delay. Decision thrives in action. A man who delays his decision invites fear to grow roots. A man who decides immediately uproots fear before it spreads. You must refuse to let fear shape your destiny. Treat it as a trespasser in the kingdom of your mind. Remove it the moment you recognize it. Replace it with conviction. Replace it with action. Replace it with the identity of the builder, who does not wait for certainty, but creates it through movement. Say within yourself, decision deletes fear. For the man who commands his decisions commands his future. And nothing in the world can defeat a man whose will has learned to silence fear. Principle 14, why slow becomes fast. There is a force in nature more powerful than sudden effort, more reliable than inspiration, and more decisive than talent. It is momentum, the quiet, steady accumulation of progress that grows invisible strength beneath a man's feet until he becomes unstoppable. Younger men rarely understand it. They seek dramatic leaps, swift results, immediate recognition. But the mature man, if he listens carefully to life, discovers that the greatest successes come not through bursts of speed, but through the quiet persistence that compounds daily. Momentum does not announce itself. It does not flatter the mind with early rewards. It begins in silence, One disciplined action repeated again and again, one small improvement built upon another, 1 hour of focused work each day performed without fanfare. Because nothing appears to be happening, the undisciplined man abandons the process. But the man over 40, who has lived enough to understand the laws of growth, continues. He knows that small motions, when sustained, become great movements. Consider how water shapes stone, not through violence, but through repetition. Consider how a seed becomes a tree, not through sudden eruption, but through slow, steady expansion. Consider how empires were built, not in moments of greatness alone, but in years of organized labor. Momentum is the silent builder behind every visible structure. In your pursuit of $1 million, you must understand that the world will not reward your early steps with applause. There will be days when your actions feel insignificant. There will be weeks when progress remains unseen. But unseen progress is still progress. Momentum gathers beneath the surface long before it appears above ground. The man who requires visible results to continue will never possess wealth, for he abandons the process before momentum can form. The advantage of the man over 40 is that he no longer believes in magic. He believes in method. He does not require excitement to continue. He requires only direction. Once he has direction, repetition becomes his ally. Repetition creates rhythm. Rhythm creates momentum. Momentum creates inevitability. You must therefore guard your rhythm with seriousness. Do not allow emotion to break it. Do not allow fatigue to disrupt it. Do not allow discouragement to silence it. When you keep your rhythm during difficult days, your momentum doubles. Difficult days are the mortar of mastery. They harden the structure. They strengthen the will. Principle 15, embodiment. No man receives wealth until he becomes the kind of man who can be trusted with it. The world does not reward the identity he wishes he had. It rewards the identity he has accepted as his own. This is why the final barrier to $1 million is not the plan, not the opportunity, not even the effort. It is the identity that still lingers from an earlier version of yourself, an identity that must be replaced before wealth can take root. A man over 40 has lived long enough to play many roles: provider, worker, follower, helper, problem solver. These identities were necessary at earlier stages of life, but they are insufficient for the man who now seeks to build wealth. $1 million requires leadership, clarity, decisiveness, vision, and steadiness. These qualities do not belong to a desperate man, or an apologetic man, or a hesitant man. They belong to one who carries himself as a builder long before the world acknowledges him as one. Edison did not wait until success crowned him to call himself an inventor. He spoke, worked, and thought as an inventor before he had invented anything of value. Carnegie thought as an industrialist when he was still a telegraph operator. Ford thought as a master builder when he was merely an engineer in another man's factory. These men assumed the identity first, and the world rearranged itself to match it. Identity is not fantasy. Identity is instruction. When you declare, "This is who I am," your subconscious begins to collect behaviors that match that declaration. It shifts your habits, sharpens your decisions, alters your posture, changes your tone, and influences what opportunities you notice. A man becomes the identity he repeatedly demonstrates, not the identity he occasionally imagines. To become the millionaire before the money arrives, you must practice embodiment, which means living today as the man you intend to be tomorrow. Speak with the certainty that wealth requires. Move with the discipline that wealth rewards. Think with the clarity that wealth demands. Do not wait for success to change your identity. Change your identity and let success follow its lead. Observe how you carry yourself. Do you walk like a man weighed down by doubt, or like a man supported by purpose? Do you speak timidly or firmly? Do you allow moods to determine your actions, or does your plan govern them? Identity reveals itself through tone, posture, and conduct. Others can sense a man's destiny before he speaks a word, for his identity announces itself first. But the man over 40 faces a unique challenge. He must release identities formed by decades of repetition. The identity shaped by old work, old failures, old roles, old beliefs. These identities are comfortable because they are familiar, but they are dangerous because they are outdated. You cannot carry yesterday's identity into tomorrow's wealth. You must shed it as a serpent sheds its skin, not gradually, but entirely. Each day you must practice the behaviors of the identity you are becoming. A builder plans before he acts. A leader speaks with clarity. A disciplined man completes his tasks without debate. A wealthy man invests his time wisely. As you live these qualities, your identity shifts, not through imagination alone, but through action repeated until it becomes instinct. Understand this law. Identity precedes income. The money will arrive only when the man who earns it has been established. You cannot outperform your identity. You cannot attract what contradicts your nature. You cannot maintain what does not match your self-concept. Once identity changes, everything else follows. Alliances, opportunities, habits, decisions, and results. Others will notice the transformation before the wealth appears. They will speak to you differently. They will respect your presence. They will sense your direction. This is not pride. It is the natural result of a man who finally governs himself. The world recognizes self-command and moves out of its way. Say to yourself, I wear the identity of my future. For the moment you become the man who builds $1 million, the arrival of the million becomes inevitable. Principle 16, wealth as the inevitable result of alignment. There comes a point in a man's pursuit of success when the struggle ends, not because conditions improve, not because fate becomes favorable, but because the man himself has become aligned. When his desire, identity, plan, habits, alliances, and decisions all move in one direction, resistance loses its power. He enters the realm of inevitability. This is the irreversible breakthrough. Few men ever reach this state because few ever achieve alignment. Some have desire but no discipline. Others have discipline but no definite aim. Others have a plan but no will. Others possess knowledge but lack identity. Their efforts contradict each other. Their actions move forward one day and backward the next. They live in fragments, never long enough in one direction to gather momentum. But when a man, especially a man over 40, unifies the parts of himself, something extraordinary occurs. His mind becomes calm. His decisions become clear. His habits become automatic. His will becomes steady, and opportunities begin to appear with increasing frequency. He does not chase them. They gravitate toward the order within him. This alignment is not mystical. It is mechanical. When the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and daily conduct all reflect the same aim, the world responds with cooperation. People trust a man whose direction is unmistakable. Circumstances bend to the man whose character is consistent. Money flows toward the man who has become the right vessel for it. This is law, not luck. The irreversible breakthrough often arrives quietly. There is no trumpet, no dramatic turning point. Instead, a man wakes one morning and realizes that what once felt difficult now feels natural. What once produced doubt now produces confidence. What once required willpower now requires only intention. He has crossed the threshold of becoming.